Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Transportation, Distribution, and Logistics Career Cluster Career Choice Virtual Panel Discussion. Today, we'll be hearing from some professionals in the field and have an opportunity to ask them questions. We hope these discussions will give you insight into the field and help you make more informed choices about the careers you're thinking about pursuing and the pathways that you should consider to get there. Before we begin, there's just a few webinar tips that I'd like to share. To interact with the panelists and the moderator, please submit your questions through the Q&A feature. It's found at the bottom of your controls, and you can submit a question anonymously if you'd like. But if you are to include your name in the submission, we'll give you a shout out before the question. You cannot interact with the other attendees throughout the webinar. The chat feature has been disabled, and only our staff members can view your questions submitted through the Q&A. Students participating in the full panel discussion today will be entered to win a $50 Visa gift card. And if you are participating as a whole class, don't worry, we'll be reaching out to your teachers for a list of student names. If you need technical assistance at any time, please call our help desk at 434-766-6772. And so now, without any further delay, I'd like to turn things over to our moderator, Joe Lee.
Good morning and welcome again. As Jessica said, my name is Joe Lee and I'm a counselor at Gretna High School here in Pennsylvania County. I've been here for 11 years and I've been in the county for much longer than that. And today for this panel discussion, we have Ed Anthony from Danville Community College. And as you can tell by the background, he works in automotive analysis and repair. We also have Tenika Valentine from First Piedmont Waste Solutions. And again, I want to welcome everybody, and to get right into it, we'll just start with them and let Tenika and Ed introduce themselves and tell a little bit about them and their job. Oh, and Greg Vest from UPS just joined us. He'll be our third panelist today. So Tenika, we'll start with you. You can just introduce yourself and tell a little bit about where you work and what you do, just a little bit.
My name is Tenika Valentine, and I'm with First Piedmont Waste Solutions. We do both waste disposal and removal. We're located, our main office in Chatham, Virginia, and we do removal of your local waste coming to our landfill. So we're going to be both transportation and disposal in the landfill. I am a special waste coordinator, and that involves just reviewing lab work and data information on the waste that we're permitted to take, but may require any special handling. As far as our goals, we try to go on our core values: trustworthy, professional, exceptional, community oriented. We try to do that for ourselves and for the business.
All right, thank you. Ed?
Okay, my name is Ed Anthony. I'm Danville Community College in the Automotive program. We are a 2-year program. You finish with a diploma, a lot of automotive analysis and repair. We basically are 5 semesters. We basically we prepare students for entry-level positions into the automotive career business, anything from areas of basically lube tech, general line techs, specialists, service managers, service writers, and auto parts. Once you get through the program, you basically can be exit with a full ASC certification, and we have several other certifications that go with that also. As you can see, and we have a fairly new lab in the background behind me, so we're pretty well ready to go for whatever comes up. We try to hit anything from the bumper to bumper of the car that goes from engines, manual, automatic transmissions, electronics, electricity, fuel systems. We consider ourselves as a total package. So we basically are here to get you ready for the business you want to be in if you want to be doing automotive.
All right, thank you. Greg?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, make sure. I'm usually doing it on the phone. Well, I'm Greg Vest. Work at UPS in Lynchburg, Virginia, and I'm also over the Keysville, Virginia UPS. 31 years service. Worked in Roanoke, Richmond, Dublin, Richlands, Danville, now Lynchburg and Keysville. So my responsibility is to make sure we deliver about 15,000 Amazon packages a day. No, not just Amazon, but it's a lot of it. So I dispatch about 55 drivers a day out of my Lynchburg center and about 35 drivers a day out of our Keysville center. So our main goal obviously is to get your packages delivered, but in a safe manner. The package cars that these drivers drive are large. We put them in tight spots. So the main thing is safety. That's our biggest. The packages are coming. We're busier now than we've ever been due to COVID, and you really can't go buy everything. And the way we've transformed is much more simple to order it and return it if it doesn't fit, if it's the wrong color, if it's a different product than you want. As far as job opportunities here, I started out unloading trailers in 1990 while I was in college, and I became a part-time supervisor, a driver, supervisor, now I'm a manager. We have industrial engineers, human resources, environmental, automotive departments. Ed, you would appreciate that, I'm sure. Got to keep the trucks running, keep them safe. But we have a ton of jobs that really have nothing to do with packages, but it helps keep the wheels turning so we can deliver the packages. So it's been good. The company's been good to me, but it also has been, it demands a lot. But I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. First question, because Greg kind of already answered his part of it, Tenika and Ed. How long have you been in this position in transportation, part of it, and what initially got you, headed in the direction of your career at this point? Tenika, we'll start with you.
I've been with First Piedmont a total of 18 years. Actually started as a scale house operator, just waiting the trucks in and out. I did that for maybe 5-6 years. And then I moved up to assistant of the hauling operations and the lane field director. And now I'm special waste coordinator. I've been special waste coordinator for about 8 years now.
All right. Ed?
Well, let's see, I guess you could say I started off my education here down at community college back in the late 70s. There's a bit of time there. But I worked for about 10 years as a line mechanic, which is a general do-all mechanic. As soon as I got out of college in Martinsville, several different dealerships, and worked there until in the mid 80s. I was hired on by another community college and worked there for many years until, and I also had my own business in between there, worked for high schools. And in 2014, I then switched to Danville Community College. So I've got right at almost 30 years in education, teaching education with the community college system. So I've got a mixed bag there of actually hands-on and education together, where I've actually worked as an entrepreneur and worked with dealers also. So it's worked really well when it comes times to try to help students get jobs and so forth. Right now, everything that's happened, especially, there is a huge hole in the workforce, as all the rest of us know, and basically anything to do with transportation. So we can all work together for this to help students out what they, to get the jobs. There are jobs there.
Next question is for Tenika and Greg. Is there any special skill set or training that students can maybe start in high school and maybe go to the community college that you guys look for, when, you're looking to hire somebody. Ed's on the training end of this. So from the business world, is there any special skill set or training that they can start in high school that you look for?
I can tell you that I have 3 kids, and I stress to them that I think two of the most important things that you can deal with in school, even if you're going to get a specific degree, is numbers, because we look at numbers every day. Math, because the world's based on numbers, and everybody needs a certain number to survive. And in communication, being able to, I've moved around, and like when I walked into this building, there's 140 new names I needed to learn. And this was their house. So communications, learning what different things make different people tick. And I can say one thing to one person and it's accepted. Say the same thing to the person standing beside them and I've offended them. If it's just a general question, or some people don't even like to hear good morning, depending on your tone. So communicating and math, numbers, that's huge in my opinion.
Thank you. Tenika?
I would concur on communication also. There is a big plus in this field. And also computers. You have your business classes that you can take. Even now with our drivers, they're having to use laptops or tablets to do their day-to-day skills. So that's a big plus. Even though it may just be basic computer skills, it's coming to the point where we need to have those.
All right. This question for all 3 of you. What do you find is the biggest challenges you face in your current job? Tenika, we'll start with you.
I think my biggest challenge would be just trying to organize everything as far as coordinating with the different departments. We have, like I said, we have a hauling division. We also have a landfill department, which is heavy equipment. And then we also have mechanics that work on our heavy equipment and our drivers, trucks and everything. So just coordinating, make sure if the truck go down, that the mechanics have what they need. If the landfill goes down, mechanics know what they need, what the landfill needs to do to service the equipment as far as pre-trips, both for landfill equipment and for the shop. So a lot of times challenging is just getting it all to come together, making sure everybody don't have too much downtime. And that also is a good aspect of our customers. Some customers come to us and they have no idea what they're looking for, no idea that we're out here, what services we offer. So making sure they get the best services for what they're looking for.
All right. Ed?
I think the biggest challenge we have here is, as much as anything, is trying to keep up to date on everything that's changing so quickly in the automotive world. It's growing by leaps and bounds every day. The computer systems and so forth we have on the cars that we're naturally and trucks, that we have to know the information so that we can, and in such a form that we can pass that on to the student that's up and coming. The biggest use of computers in the world today is automotive. A lot of people don't realize what it is. You really start counting the cars that are out there. And when you've gotten to the point where we have this new ADIA system where the windshield and certain sensors and so forth have to line up the cars going down the road, on the road, things to that extent. There's just so many new things. I'm not even going to go through them that we have to keep up with. Plus the regular job of teaching students and things to that extent. It's just such a growing field. And naturally, things are totally changing, and we have to change with that to try to keep up. And so I think that's a very big essential thing. Of course, one thing to be said, with all these changes, what the average person working on vehicles in the future is going up more and more every day. So that means a better pay scale.
Greg?
My biggest challenge is lately in the last year and a half has been the staffing due to the increase in volume. And we don't just hire somebody and say, hey, go deliver packages. It's a 30-day training process that they go through that they have to qualify for. You have to meet certain standards as far as safety and service. So it used to be like when I started, it was about an 8-year wait of working part-time in the building to get your chance to drive, to get a full-time position. And I've hired like 17 drivers year before last and last year. And some of them almost straight off the street to go driving. So the increase in volume, the increase in stops, and adjusting to that staffing. And an example is year before last, I was working about 45 drivers a day, and we're working 58 drivers today just out of this center. That's a big increase in volume, stops, capacity on my building. They're designed for a certain amount of packages to go through every hour. When that increases, you have to increase your sort span, you have to increase your staffing. And it's easy to find people that want a full-time job. It's sometimes more difficult to find somebody to work part-time that doesn't mind coming in at 3 o'clock in the morning or coming in at midnight during Christmas time to load package cars, to load your packages for 8 or 9 hours a day. So that's been our biggest challenge, is adjusting to that. Obtaining more equipment. Like Morgan Olson down in Ringgold there, Ed, I'm sure you're very aware of that. You know, they were strictly Amazon for months. That's all they made was Amazon. And now they're back to manufacturing other cars. So we have, with the due to the increase in volume and stock, we've been delivering out of rentals, which is different than package cars, not designed for stop and go. And so that's been our biggest challenge. And when you have more stops, you have more customers, which is appreciated. But sometimes it's hard to get customers to understand that we're going to be out there longer. You might not get your packages early. You're going to get it today. It just might not be at 12. It might be 2 or something like that. So those challenges, they have been challenges.
Greg, while we're there, how long does it take from the time you hire somebody, as you said, off the street, to be trained as a driver? Because it's not the same as driving a car, obviously.
Right.
How long does that training take for like a package delivery person?
No, they initially go to a school. It's called Integrad, or driver training school. And they go through a week-long training process, and it is like 90%, 95% safety, how to drive the package car, how to lift, lower a package, how to walk, really. I mean, it's how to walk. We deal with wet situations, ice, snow. We have called Walk Like a Penguin. They actually walk across the surface that you couldn't walk on, but they have safety harnesses on, and it's how you shuffle your feet. But you just couldn't normally walk across it like you would, dry pavement. And then they come back and we put them on a training packet. It's a 30-day training packet, and we touch base with that prospective driver for 30 days. We ride with them for 3 days. We let them go with a reduced dispatch of about 4.5 hours worth of work, which we expect it to take them 8 hours because they're learning the job. Then we increase that dispatch. We follow up to make sure they're leaving packages in proper locations, that they're not driving erratic, that we're not backing the car if we shouldn't back it, because that's where most of our accidents happen, are backing accidents. We do what we call check-in audits to make sure that we serviced every package, because that's how we're paid, how the company's paid, it's what the customer paid for. We check their appearance, attendance, and all that. They have to meet certain standards within that 30 days, or they do not qualify as a driver, and we move on to the next person.
Thank you. We talked about the challenges. Now, what would you say is the most rewarding to you part of your job? Ed, we'll start with you.
I think the single biggest reward I see is when students when they finish the program and they get that job that they want. that they're able to go out and be productive for themselves and their families. And to see them when they realize through each individual hurdle that they go over to get through this process within the 2 years, is that they've made accomplishments and they realize that they can be part of what they want to be at this time to get started on their future. I think that's as much as anything. That's one of the things I love about graduation, because I know when these students are going out and they're going to be able to be productive and be able to enjoy life because they have something that they can show accountable for and get that job. That's just, my heart goes out for the students there.
Tenika?
I think it's just getting our customers satisfied, and then when our drivers come in at the end of the day, that everybody's safe. I mean, there's a lot of accidents that happens out there in the streets. As far as making sure the customers are serviced in a timely manner, and then our drivers come back in to the shop is a big accomplishment. I mean, I know it sounds like something small, but getting all that and giving them back in is a big accomplishment at the end of the day.
Greg?
Sounded like Tenika answered the UPS question. Customer satisfied and drivers come back safe. So I agree with her 100%. It also, I like the challenges. So we've been challenged with the increase in volume and what do we need to do different. That's been rewarding when it turns out successful. And then also when we graduate a driver to actually make them what we call a full service provider, a driver. If they're not performing where they should be within their training packet, we look at ourselves first. Have we given them the due diligence? Because my supervisor has been here 10, 12 years, and I've been here over 30. It's second nature to me when I say something, but it might not be to them. So I evaluate myself first. And if we can make them successful, that's a really good feeling.
What is there what one personal trait, skill would you say someone needs to be successful in the transportation, distribution, and logistics field? Tenika?
I'm probably going to say communication. Communication is the biggest aspect of everything. If I had one trait, communication would be it.
All right. Ed?
Mine's going to be a little different than that. I'm going to tell you the change of the past to the present. I think the biggest thing is the person has to be ready to show up. You got to be there and be accountable. If you don't show up or you don't show up on time, you're not going to, the company you're working for just can't function. We all have to be there and show up for our jobs. I'm going to leave it that simple.
All right, Greg?
I echo what both of them said, and then also just being able to adjust. The thing we say here is adjust to changing conditions. If it's dry, the roads are dry yesterday, they're wet today, we have to adjust to those changing conditions. We have to adjust, or have to be able to adjust and accept that world's changed, which has changed our jobs. And we have to be able to adjust to that, or you'll fail.
All right. What is a perk or a benefit of your job that most people in the community would have no idea about? Greg?
That's a tough one. That's a tough one. I mean, it's if you show up every day, like Ed said, you have good job security, and it's a demand for our job. It's a demand to get the packages delivered. But to echo what he said is, it's job security. Just show up, give 100% effort every day. every job's going to have its good points and bad points, no matter where you're at, no matter what you're doing. But it's good job security. It's ever changing, it's ever evolving, and they need people that's going to show up, communicate well, like's been said, and put the effort in. Roll your sleeves up.
All right, Tenika, certain perk or benefit?
I'm gonna say one of the perks that we have here at First Piedmont is that the company takes us on company trips every so often. And that's a big perk. You get to mingle with your coworkers, get to know them outside of work. You know, like was said before, you kind of have to know how to take people. I go back to communication. And when you know a little bit about them outside of work, it helps you to understand and communicate better with them as an employee. So we take company trips maybe like every 3 years. We've been to a couple of different places. And like I said, it's just mingling with your coworkers and getting to understand them.
All right, Ed?
Well, looking at it from a educational side of the situation, I think the biggest thing I find, other than the other things we've already said here, is that I get to have a chance to touch each student who comes through here. And I have to be careful about how I do that. But how I touch them for the future or how they go forward. And a lot of times I get to see the students after they finished and gone and they've become successful. And to me, that is the single biggest perk of everything, that students become successful.
Ed, I know you guys have a dual enrollment program through DCC.
Yes.
Students that do the dual enrollment in high school, how does that help them when they come to you?
Well, one thing is the simple part is a lot of students who knew absolutely nothing about a car, they get to look and realize a lot of the simple systems of the car, which aren't really so simple anymore. But anyway, there's some different systems in the car. And so that when they come to us, they've got a little bit more of a feel for what's going on. And they get introduced to that, and they also have time to articulate their skills that they're learning with their hands and their mind and so forth. And so that keeps them a little bit more of an understanding what they're going to go through. Understand at the same time, but the students who haven't been through the program, we start from a scratch thing and we assess each student as we go through, so that the students are more advanced, we can get them into something a little deeper, whereas the other students who haven't, that need some more, we can work with them back and forth. And but the dual enrollment is a great thing for students, and we do give extra credit for, we give certain credits where the students don't have to take certain classes over again when they come through the dual enrollment program and they go through ours. So it's actually a plus that they've taken those. Saves them money and time, I guess you could say.
Okay. Ed kind of alluded to this a little earlier, so this is for Tenika and Greg. You both kind of mentioned computers and how things are changing. How do you see, evolving technology changing transportation, careers, in the future? Tenika, start with you.
As far as First Piedmont, we now have all our trucks equipped with dash cams and tablets, as I said earlier. And that's pretty much bridging the gap between the driver and the office personnel. It will allow us to verify service, to protect our drivers from false claims. We get real-time vehicle diagnostics for our mechanics, and it ensures that the fleet is operating, efficiently. So I just think between getting the information between the drivers on the road and the office staff and coordinating that would be the largest aspect within the next 5 to 10 years.
All right, Greg?
I can tell you that technology, when I first started UPS, we were handwriting addresses and tracking numbers down on paper. And now we're using what we call dyads, or delivery information acquisition devices, that are, some of them are just, has maps in them if the driver needs directions. We used to have to stop and set our pack. When I was driving, I'd have to stop, set my truck up, see where I had my stops up, go deliver. The devices they have now tell them where there's, has every stop in their board, how many packets we have their stop, where it's loaded at on the truck. And that's just ever evolving. We have what we call cradles now in the diet, in the truck that you plug your diet into, and it gives you, take a left here, take a right here, 1.2 miles, house on the right, whatever. We can put information in the boards to have an address for 123 Main Street. If it's a bad dog, comes up bad dog, or a leaf package on back porch. Don't leave package, you know, that kind of stuff. We also have something called telematics. This morning I came in and I pulled a report, and it gives me all my, nothing but safety information about yesterday. How many miles, how far did we back? How many times we were looking at our diet while the wheels were moving on the car. And I post that information, and we have contests, who backs the least amount, who backs the, who doesn't have a back first exception, who doesn't use their diet while the wheels are moving. And you know, we probably have more people in our engineering department that handle that now than ever, because the ever-changing conditions or ever-changing demands. Technology has totally changed us. Totally changed.
And Ed, real quick, before we get to the student questions, sort of the same question, but most people don't think, when they're thinking of automotive repair and analysis dealing with computers. I mean, they know that computers are on a car, but how do you use them, like, you know, when you're diagnosing problems and so forth? How have computers, you know, changed how you process that?
Well, it has changed. When we first got computers on the car, and we had did diagnosis back in those days, it has hugely changed. There are even cars now that you do something as simple as an oil change. The scan tool, which is a computer, pretty good size computer these days, has to be hooked up. Okay. If you're working with air conditioning, front end alignment, automatic transmissions, programming of the engine, and so forth. Okay. It is hugely the main package that we have to teach through the time we're here. And you'll never get enough time. We tell our students that basically you need to fall in love with this box and get used to it. Okay. Because that's, if you do any work on a car today, it has to do with using a scan tool of some form, so that you get the information to see if it's being processed properly. When you get into a car and you turn the switch on and you push a button for the door, your window to go down on the driver's door, all you did was send a signal back to a main computer, which tells another computer, I want the window to go down. And he says, we'll decide for you whether it's going to go down or not. Okay. I'm serious. It's that crazy. And so we have to know how to go through the different computers and talk to each other to get the information to find out if there's a real problem. Is there an open in the wiring system? Is there a short? Is there a bad module? We even have cars that just the tail light on the car, if the module in the tail light, which is a computer, goes bad, the car won't run. Okay. In certain instances, it's just huge. And it doesn't stop just with the cars. Tenika and Greg, both, they're in the future. I'm waiting to see these autonomous trucks running down the road. There will be a driver in there, but they're not going to be touching the steering wheel, because it is very possible that like, for instance, Tenika, you will have a route. It will be planned in there to stop here, here, and here, and they'll have sensors to see if there's something out there to pick up. And I mean, most of the folks that are listening to us right now don't know who Buck Rogers was. Okay. But that's about what we're talking about anymore. It's getting really deep. So if they make it, we've got to be able to service it. Okay. But
All right, first student question is from Jordan Edmonds. Have you been scared at your job? For example, like when you first got the job? Tenika?
Yes. First coming into First Piedmont, we had trucks come on the scales, the phones were ringing. I had a line of trucks waiting to scale in, and it was a bit overwhelming. But one thing that one of the ladies told me, she was like, you can only weigh one truck at a time. And I still tell people that to this day. I mean, we get them in and out as quickly as possible, but you can only one truck at a time. So, yeah.
Greg?
I have to echo what she said. When I first started, you walk in at probably 3 or 4 in the morning and hop up in that trailer and start unloading that trailer. You need to be out in a certain amount of time, and you get in there with seasoned people. That it's everything has something to do with methods, and learning that. And then when I first got promoted to a manager, when I walked in the building and I was the decision maker, that was challenging or scary. But I always learned you have to make decisions versus not making it at all. So those first couple of years of that learning curve was challenging.
All right. Next question is from Jakayla Davis. Do you have to go to college to do your job? Tenika?
You do not have to go to college to do my job. We do have training that we do as far as being a landfill operator. We have to go and take certain classes, some more of a skilled trade. CDL drivers, same thing. You have to have your CDL license. And even for our mechanics, they have to, have some ASC certification. So more, not really post-secondary, but more trade.
All right. Ed, talking about particular degree or certifications.
Yes.
I guess not necessarily with DCC, but for an automotive mechanic, repair. And I guess you could probably touch on a little bit about the ASC and how long that takes. Okay. And this question was from Tiana Honeycutt.
Okay. Certification and so forth. Well, for instance, our program has a diploma. And diploma over an associate's degree, I want people to understand that a diploma is a longer period of time and more classes that have your core program classes in it. Like, for instance, automotive classes. Whereas an associate's degree, you're going to have psychology, a lot more math and English and so forth, social sciences. All right. Excuse me. So our program is 72 credits, whereas usually an associate degree is 63. However, like I said, we try to cover whatever you need to get started. And then once you get to the point where you're working with somebody, usually to go beyond that, they will actually send you to more training at a training center that, like, for instance, General Motors has a training center here. Like, say, for in Atlanta, they'll send you to Atlanta or wherever and have you specialized training for like anywhere from a day to 5 days. And so that specialized training comes in and they usually pay for that. Okay. Now, y'all have to excuse me, I'm getting up. Tickled. But now, with ASC certification, and certification basically is supposed to show that you know what you're talking about, okay? You've been certified in a general area, like, for instance, electricity, engines, automatic transmissions, manual transmissions, drivability, steering, suspension, front end alignment, and so forth. But there's 8 main areas, and that you pass those tests. That's what ASC is all about. And you set for those tests and take those. Like, for instance, when you come to the end of the program here, if you so desire, as you're going through the program, you'll have a chance to take the student test. And if you pass those tests and get all 8, 1 or 8, it doesn't matter. That's your test. You passed it and you are student certified in that area. And that student certification is good for 2 years. after you get done with it. Then when you, after those 2 years, and you've actually gone out and worked in that area, then you take another test, and that one makes you good for 5 years, and that's recertifiable every time. The farther you go, the stronger it gets. But when you go to recertification, generally speaking, you don't have so many questions there. But it's to prove, it's a thing to prove that you have knowledge of your area that you're working in. And that's what a lot of dealerships and independent shops want to see, is something that they can show or see that you have tried to excel in the program. Now, nobody has to take the test here, but if you want to take the test, generally in the past, we've already paid for the tests, so you don't have to pay for them, okay, for these student tests. So it's another thing to put on your resume that you have all this stuff and these certifications and certificates that you'll have when you leave here, and it helps you get a job. And another thing is the dealers and so forth like to be able to put that up and say, this guy here works for me and he has these certifications.
I see we had about 2 minutes, so I'm going to combine two questions, and I guess each have about 30 seconds here. The first one is from Anonymous. Did someone influence you to enter the field you're currently in? And then Michaela Simmons wants to know, how did you know you wanted to do your job? So if you can real quickly hit that, and Greg, we'll start with you.
I'll tell you, I got influenced by my parents because my dad said UPS was a good place to get a job. But I served my apprenticeship to be an electrician, was going to go to school for 2 years to get an associate's degree in management. Got a part-time job at UPS and never left because it's a good company to work for. So that's how I got started.
Tenika?
I was actually enrolled at DCC. I took class at DCC for a couple of years. I was working at a store and I kept seeing these drivers come in. I didn't recognize the company. So I Googled the company and saw what First Piedmont did, and I was interested in it. I figured I just could work there, you know, while I was finishing school. But like I said, it's been 18 years. So it's always a change in field. No day is ever the same. And once you get to a company that's beneficial and you can see your worth in the company, then it does something, makes you stay there.
All right, Ed?
I know this sounds crazy, but I was a line mechanic at a Buick dealership, and I got to know a community college instructor, and he says, have you ever considered teaching? And this is the guy who was afraid to stand up in front of class and give speeches in high school, okay? I said, I don't know. I will give it a try. And that was it. And knees knocked for a time or two and so forth. And the biggest thing I want to tell anybody when it comes to speaking is to know the truth of what you're saying. As long as you know what you're saying and it's the truth, that you can back it up, nobody can ever put you down.
All right. Thank you guys so much for being here today. And again, you know, if you have other questions, I think we got to most of them. You know, maybe you can send them to Jesse or Jessica, and they can, you know, send them to the panelists, and maybe, you know, we can get an answer that way. I apologize if we didn't get to all of them. And I guess at this time, I will turn it back over to Jessica for the closing part.
Okay, thank you, Joe, and thank you to all the panelists for sharing your knowledge and experience with us today. For student attendees, we hope that you're energized and excited to research opportunities in the transportation, distribution, and logistics career cluster. We will be drawing the gift card recipient names in the coming weeks. So after we have had a chance to follow up with your teachers and get whole class registrations, the gift cards recipient will be contacted through their school. You can provide yourself with another opportunity to win a $50 Visa gift card by completing the Career Choice Scavenger Hunt, which is found on the website, and if you complete the Career Choice Survey coming March 22nd. Each student completing both activities will be entered to win into the drawing for their school. So good luck with your drawings, and we hope you will continue to take opportunities to imagine your potential, connect with employers, and explore your career possibilities. So I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and thank you all again.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Appreciate it. Good to see everyone.